Charlotte, if you are just now joining us, just now waking up, we do have some breaking news in the past few minutes. AP now officially calling the presidential race for former President Trump. Just moments ago, he secured Wisconsin's electoral votes, putting him at 277 electoral votes, well above that magic number of 270. 4 states still outstanding: Nevada, Arizona, Michigan, and Alaska. And at this hour, all 4 are expected to go Mr. Trump's way.
Well, this election already making history this morning. In Delaware, voters elected Democrat Sarah McBride to Congress, making her the first openly transgender person serving in the U.S. House of Representatives.
McBride already made history 4 years ago when she became the first transgender state senator in the United States. She's also the youngest person Delaware has sent to Washington since President Joe Biden back in 1972.
And that's not the only person making history at the polls. Delaware's Lisa Blunt Rochester and Maryland's Angela Also Brooks will become the first Black women to serve in the U.S. Senate at the same time. The historic wins will double the number of Black women in the Senate, going from 2 to 4. Illinois Senator Carol Braun was the first back in 1992, and Vice President Harris was the second. Well, no matter who you voted for, the election and the stress it may cause, well, it might not be over.
But there are things we can do to curb some of that stress. WCNC Charlotte's Megan Bragg verifies.
An American Psychiatric Association annual mental health poll shows that of those surveyed, 73% say the election is a trigger for their anxiety. So are there things we can do to calm our nerves? Let's get the facts. Our sources are the American Psychiatric Association and Colleen Marshall, Chief Clinical Officer at Mental Health Clinic 2 Chairs.
So we're seeing more of the election sort of impacting how people feel about the election.
Marshall says it's important to note that stress and anxiety are a normal part of life, but knowing how much they impact your daily life is critical.
Is it impacting your relationships, your ability to sleep, and or impacting your ability to concentrate or do work?
Along with seeking professional help, Marshall says there are some simple things we can do to reduce some of the election stress.
The one that I would focus on with the election is boundaries. So how do you think about how much of this material do you consume? And that's unique for everybody. It's how much it's really thinking about for yourself is what happens when you're consuming that.
But you don't have to take away all forms of media. Marshall says it's more about redirecting your attention elsewhere.
You can choose not to read it, choose not to click on the story. You can choose to click on something else that brings you joy and happiness.
Marshall says consuming election content isn't just what you watch or read on your TV or smartphone either.
Highly likely that this is a common conversation these days. So it could be something in your personal life with friends and family that it's coming up.
Now, in the end, Marshall says it's all about finding things that make you happy and bring you joy, like exercising, sleeping well, and focusing on positives like practicing gratitude. With your Verify, I'm Megan Bragg.
All right, let's talk about that forecast today.
Only stress, I think, is not that much stress. A little bit of fog this morning.
Okay.
Otherwise, not a bad start. Temperatures are okay. We'll take a look and show you those 4 cameras we like to use. We got Rock Hill off in the distance, some fog there. A little bit of fog up at Lake Norman there in Davidson. Kannapolis in the background over towards the research campus, some foggy conditions. And you can see, as you look at over in Monroe in Union County, the old courthouse, a little bit of fog in the background there. So visibility, yes, definitely some foggy conditions from Shelby to Gastonia to Charlotte along Interstate 85 or Highway 74 down in the Palmetto State. Foggy conditions at Chester, Lancaster, and Cheraw. Over in Monroe, about half-mile visibility, less than 2-mile visibility in places like Hickory, Rock Hill, and over at Albemarle there in Stanley County. So patchy, even dense fog out there this morning. Radar indicates some very light pockets of rain over towards Asheville, all the way up towards the northern part of Rutherford County. As you head towards Catawba County, the bigger view indicates where the heavy rain and storms are this morning from Louisiana all the way across Arkansas, around Memphis in the Mid-South, and all the way to the Ohio Valley. Another band of showers in the Gulf of Mexico. And radars are starting to pick up some of that rain in the western part of Cuba from the hurricane down there. Let's take a look at futurecasts as we take it through the morning into the afternoon. You can see some spotty showers around between about 3 and 6 pockets of heavier rainfall at that time. And then we get into this evening, a few spotty showers early tomorrow morning. Then things do clear out in advance of the upcoming, at least Friday afternoon should be okay. As far as some of the heavier rainfall today will all be south of here. Now, tomorrow, as you get down into Interstate 77 down towards Columbia, some moderate heavy rainfall expected all the way down into parts of Georgia. That would be tomorrow. As far as our future cast, I think just light rainfall here. The heaviest rain really is going to be south of here. Charlotte not expecting too much rain at all, less than a tenth of an inch of rain. But notice you get down towards Lancaster, Sherrod, over towards Rockingham, maybe up to a half an inch of rainfall expected over the next 24 hours. Into the tropics we go. This is our latest hurricane right here. As you can see, as we track the tropics, winds at 90 gusts to 105 miles an hour. Hurricane Raphael, this is that latest advisory, moving northwest at about 14 miles per hour. Headed across the western part of Cuba, enters into the Gulf of Mexico. It is a hurricane, but then it loses lots of intensity. The Gulf of Mexico at the moment, not really conducive to any intensification. So we're talking about becoming maybe just a tropical storm or tropical depression before landfall. Anywhere between New Orleans and maybe towards Houston. That's a big cone of uncertainty right there, but not expected to have any major impacts in our part of the world. For today, high near 70, unseasonably warm at Boone. Their average high temperature this time of the year is about 57 degrees, 75 at Hickory, in the mid-70s here in the Queen City, close to 81 over at Rockingham. A little more sunshine there as we take the futurecast once again. Spotty showers later this afternoon, not a washout by any means, and a few spotty showers around the area tomorrow, particularly tomorrow afternoon into the evening as we check that Guy Roofing 7-day forecast. Mid-70s today, and again tomorrow. Friday looking okay, about 76, partly sunny skies. A little bit cooler for the upcoming weekend. Saturday near 70 and 68 on Sunday, pretty close to the average high. And then we're back to the mid-70s Monday and Tuesday of next week. That's the forecast. Let's get a check right now on that Wednesday morning. We've got a couple issues out there. Here's Chris.
Well, let's do it, my friend. We still have a partial blockage that's right here on this ramp coming from I-77 southbound that's trying to get either onto the Brookshire Boulevard or Brookshire Freeway, whatever direction, because it veers off. So you can still see a blocked truck up the road, but again, that should be resolved here very, very soon. Right around 6 o'clock is the newest estimate. We're also dealing with a lot of that dense fog. I've been mentioning those visibility values down to about a quarter mile in Shelby, we've got a quarter mile in Charlotte, and we do have our first incident of at least the hour. The previous one that we had happened in the 4 o'clock hour. This is Highway 49 or North Tryon, eastbound right at Tryon Street. So really University City Boulevard meshing up with a North Tryon. Drive safely. This is the only incident at least so far, but I'm sure this is going to flourish, especially with those lower visibilities heading in the 6 o'clock hour.
We've got a lot more still ahead on WCNC Charlotte, including some of your local headlines.
After a house fire in Kannapolis, we'll tell you why it's the family's four-legged friend being called a real hero this morning.
But first, TKK leaders sharing an update on their plan to sterilize hundreds of deer. We've got that update coming up in just 3 minutes.
WCNC Charlotte is your trusted source. We're verifying the political ads from the presidential to the governor's race, cutting through the noise to separate fact from fiction. Scan the QR code to see what's been verified.
Thanks for downloading the WCNC Plus app. We've got more local news coming up, so keep it right here for the most accurate forecast and exclusive content, all available on your time. WCNC Plus, live, local, and always on.
Weather impacts everything. Stay prepared with WCNC Charlotte's Weather Impact Team.
It's a raging torrent coming down King Street right now.
Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich and the entire Weather Impact Team delivers the wind.
Brief showers overnight.
The impact.
Winds 60 miles an hour.
And what you need to stay safe and weather aware.
The water will continue to rise. There's nowhere for this water to go.
Stay aware of weather that impacts you by downloading the WCNC News app now. WCNC Plus delivers stories that impact you, plus breaking and developing news as it happens, streaming live on your time, plus weather coverage that impacts you 24/7. Stream WCNC Plus now.
Turn on the news that impacts you every evening at 6 on WCNC Charlotte.
Get breaking news and continuing coverage.
Stay weather aware with the Weather Impact Team.
We're your trusted source for verified news and content.
Want it now? Stream now. WCNC Plus gives you breaking and developing news along with weather coverage that impacts you. It's streaming 24/7 on WCNC Plus.
Get more of the news that impacts you on WCNC Charlotte weeknights at 6.
WCNC Weather Impact.
Weather Aware Days. They show you what to expect when the weather changes. We're going to show you the timing, the impacts, and how to stay safe.
Stay weather aware with the WCNC Weather Impact team and download the WCNC News app.
Intentions Coffee.
Find your red tag.
WCNC Charlotte.
5 minutes till the top of the hour. Turning now to some of your other local headlines. Developing news this morning. We're learning a man wanted for murder right here in Charlotte is waking up behind bars in Tennessee. Authorities arrested 45-year-old Henry Renteria yesterday, 158 miles from Charlotte. Police say he's wanted for a murder that happened back in March. He's expected to appear in a Tennessee courtroom today before he's extradited back here to North Carolina.
Officials in TKK say they have finished their effort to sterilize hundreds of deer. Over the past 2 weeks, wildlife specialists have sterilized 200 female deer as an effort to solve the city's overpopulation problem. City Council approved the plan back in August. Leaders are also planning to kill 80 deer in the coming months. And take a look at this. This is what's left of a home this morning after a fire in Kannapolis. It took firefighters about 25 minutes to get the flames under control. And get this, they say nobody was hurt because the family's dog alerted them. Officials are now saying this is a good reminder to check your smoke alarms since heaters are the cause of many fires in the colder months.
And why dogs are best friends when they do
right.
things like that. Weather-wise, got some fog this morning. A very mild afternoon. More weather news and a check on your commute coming up next right here on WCNC Charlotte.
Allergies, pet dander. Call Coit. Make sure your home air ducts are Coit.
WCNC Charlotte is your trusted source. We're verifying the political ads from the presidential to the governor's race, cutting through the noise to separate fact from fiction. Scan the QR code to see what's been verified.
Thanks for downloading the WCNC Plus app. We've got more local news coming up, so keep it right here for the most accurate forecast and exclusive content, all available on your time. WCNC Plus, live, local, and always on.
Weather impacts everything. Stay prepared with WCNC Charlotte's Weather Impact team.
It's a raging torrent coming down King Street right now.
Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich and the entire Weather Impact team delivers the wind.
Brief showers overnight.
The impact.
Winds 60 miles an hour.
And what you need to stay safe and weather aware.
The water will continue to rise. There's nowhere for this water to go.
Stay aware of weather that impacts you by downloading the WCNC News app now. WCNC Plus delivers stories that impact you, plus breaking and developing news as it happens, streaming live on your time, plus weather coverage that impacts you 24/7. Stream WCNC Plus now.
Turn on the news that impacts you every evening at 6 on WCNC Charlotte.
Get breaking news and continuing coverage.
Stay weather aware with the Weather Impact team.
We're your trusted source for verified news and content.
Want it now? Stream now. WCNC Plus gives you breaking and developing news along with weather coverage that impacts you. It's streaming 24/7 on WCNC Plus.
Get more of the news that impacts you on WCNC Charlotte weeknights at 6.
WCNC Weather Impact.
Weather Aware Days. They show you what to expect when the weather changes. We're going to show you the timing, the impacts, and how to stay safe.
Stay weather aware with the WCNC Weather Impact team and download the WCNC News app.
Samples for same-day pickup or future.
6 a.m., a new era starting in U.S. history.
This was a movement like nobody's ever seen before.
Former President Trump projected this morning to make his return to the White House after what appears to be an overwhelming victory over Vice President Kamala Harris.
This as North Carolina prepares for new leadership of its own.
And I am so honored that you have elected me to be your next governor.
Attorney General Josh Stein now projected to be the next governor of North Carolina. We're live in Raleigh with what Stein says his priorities will be day one in office.
And several big races decided overnight here in North Carolina, including the balance of power up in Raleigh.
And the balance of power shifting in Congress overnight. We take a look at how the races across the country appear to be making way for a very different Senate and House in 2025.
Rain chances over the next several days. What about the weekend? All the details coming up right here.
And this morning, we're getting a lot of questions from you about what's next after last night's historic election.
We're taking those questions to an expert to get a better understanding how those results affect you and your family. It is Wednesday, November 6th.
News that impacts you. You're watching WCNC Charlotte News at 6.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ben Thompson.
And I'm Sarah French. We begin this hour with breaking news into our newsroom just minutes ago. This morning, we can tell you that former President Trump will be president once again. AP News calling the race less than 30 minutes ago. The former president remained at 267 most of the overnight hours, but just after 5:30, Wisconsin pushed him past the 270 needed to take the White House.
Take a look right now at the Electoral College map as it stands. 4 states still outstanding: Nevada, Arizona, Michigan, and Alaska. And at this hour, Mr. Trump favored to win all 4, further expanding his victory.
Just a little over 3 hours ago, former President Trump spoke to supporters in Florida.
Here's a look at part of what he had to say.
I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president. And every citizen, I will fight for you, for your family, and your future. Every single day I will be fighting for you, and with every breath in my body, I will not rest until we have delivered the strong, safe, and prosperous America that our children deserve and that you deserve. This will truly be the golden age of America. That's what we have to have.
Vice President Harris did not speak to supporters last night, but she is expected to deliver remarks sometime today.
All right, now let's take a deeper dive into the Electoral College map as it stands this morning. Again, just in the last 30 minutes, Wisconsin declared for Donald Trump, putting him over that 270 threshold. He currently has 277. And the thing is, folks, that lead is expected to further expand throughout the morning because he's leading right now in Michigan. He's leading right now in Arizona, as well as Nevada and Alaska. If he wins those as he's expected to do, that will put him at 312 electoral votes. That's better than Joe Biden did 4 years ago and better than Mr. Trump did 8 years ago. So a resounding victory win. As you know, as of yesterday, a lot of the polls said this was going to be a very tight race that was basically a tie, according to all polls. So how did we get here? Let's take a deeper dive now into some of the local numbers here in North Carolina. Kamala Harris performing fairly well, 47% compared to his 51%. But as we told you yesterday in the weeks leading up to this, Harris needed to overperform Joe Biden's numbers here in North Carolina in order to win. And she just didn't. Here in Mecklenburg County, she got 65.6% of the vote. 4 years ago, Joe Biden got 67, close, but not quite there. Up in Wake County, a similar situation there. Kamala Harris got 62% of the vote. Joe Biden, 4 years ago, got almost 63% of the vote. That continues throughout all these blue counties you see here in the state of North Carolina. Kamala Harris had to outdo President Biden, what he did 4 years ago, and she came very close in all of them. But as we know, close was not close enough. The poll said this was a tight race. It was. But still, as you wake up this morning, President Trump with a pretty resounding victory, not just here in North Carolina, but really across the country. Sarah.
All right, turning now to more local politics and a new governor this morning for North Carolina. Democrat Josh Stein defeating Republican Mark Robinson in a landslide. WCNC Charlotte's Richard Devane live in Raleigh this morning with a closer look at that race. Richard?
Good Wednesday morning, everyone. And the word close wasn't the case in this election. It followed what polls say that Josh Stein had an upper hand, so to speak, for weeks. And that proved to be the case last night after all the ballots were in. Now, as we take a look, we caught up with Josh Stein yesterday as he was out doing last minute campaigning. He knows now he will replace the term limited Governor Roy Cooper and become the state's first Jewish governor. He was out making the rounds yesterday. And in remarks to his supporters Tuesday night, Stein says his election shows that the state embraced his optimistic vision for the future. Stein's opponent, the controversial Republican Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, thanked his supporters in his concession speech and says even though the race didn't go his way, there is still more work to do.
But it was not to be, it appears. And I can tell you this, we're not going to stop here, folks. No. We don't stop here. We've got a lot of work still to do as lieutenant governor.
We chose hope over hate, competence over chaos, decency over division. That's who we are as North Carolinians. And I am so honored that you have elected me to be your next governor.
And Stein also said yesterday that some of the first things he's got to do is make sure that folks in Western Carolina can get as much aid and help as they can to get back onto their feet. We're right here in the Capitol. This is Richard Devane. Send it back to you.
All right, Richard, thank you this morning. We can also tell you Democrat Jeff Jackson will succeed Josh Stein as North Carolina's Attorney General. Jackson narrowly defeating Republican Dan Bishop by just a couple 100,000 votes. This race, the most expensive Attorney General's race in North Carolina history. Both candidates spent an estimated $30 million plus. Overnight, Jackson spoke to supporters and shared how ready he is to get started.
The Attorney General's job is to be a shield for those in harm's way, whether it's violent crime, folks pushing fentanyl into communities, scammers going after your bank account, people polluting the air or the water. It will be my job to stand up to them on your behalf. I look forward to getting started, and I'm especially looking forward to joining the dedicated public servants at the North Carolina Department of Justice in that mission.
Jackson's win continues a long line of Democratic attorneys general in North Carolina. The last Republican to be elected for the role was in 1875. Well, this morning, Western North Carolina counties are reporting a record number of voters at the polls. It's great news for the region as recovery continues after Hurricane Helene.
WCNC Charlotte's Anna King had the chance to talk with voters about what it means for them to cast a ballot in this year's election.
I'm Anna King in Western North Carolina, where election officials told me they saw a record number of voters make their way to the polls to cast their ballot. This in the midst of recovery efforts still underway following the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. Just today, I saw multiple businesses closed, roads destroyed, and cleanup efforts underway. So voters told me they were excited to get out and cast their ballot. And election officials told me they made multiple accommodations for those voters, like moving polling sites and an exception for lost photo IDs. They say they were surprised to see such a high turnout rate. Back to you.
Now taking a look at some of the major statewide races here in North Carolina. Late last night, Democrat Mo Green narrowly beating Republican Michelle Murrow in the state superintendent's race.
Now to Lieutenant Governor, where it appears Democrat Rachel Hunt, daughter of our former governor, will take over for Republican Mark Robinson. She leads Republican Hal Weatherman by about 100,000 votes. In the labor commissioner's race, Republican Luke Farley defeating Democrat Braxton Winston. Winston, of course, previously the mayor pro tem here in the city of Charlotte.
And in the state treasurer's race, Republican Brad Briner defeated Democrat Wesley Harris. Briner's best known as the chief information officer for billionaire Michael Bloomberg. Now to the race for North Carolina's Secretary of State, where longtime incumbent Elaine Marshall is projected to beat Gaston County Commissioner Republican Chad Brown.
And finally, in the race for North Carolina Supreme Court, folks, take a look at this. It's just a dead tie as of this morning at 6:09, with nothing really separating Republican Jefferson Griffin from Democrat Allison Riggs.
Hey, good morning. We're looking at some foggy conditions out there. In fact, this is our uptown camera from the view. You can't see anything. That's how foggy it is across here. But it's a mild morning at 66 degrees right now. Light winds out of the south-southeast at about 5 miles per hour. 66 here over in Albemarle, 58, 65 at Rock Hill in South Carolina. How about this? In the Boone area, 60 degrees, the current temperature there. Their average high this time of year is 57. Once again, 66 in the Queen City. Once again, patchy, even some dense fog out there this morning. Foggy conditions in Lincoln as well as Shelby and Gastonia, right here in Charlotte, all the way down to Monroe, Chester, and Lancaster in South Carolina. So put the low beams on. Could be some dangerous driving out there and slow down as well. Check it out hour by hour as we take it about 2 o'clock this afternoon, mid-70s. As we head towards the evening, could be a few showers. We're in the upper 60s right around 10 o'clock tonight. That's the weather word. Let's get a check right now on your Wednesday morning commute. Here's Chris.
Hey, thanks a lot, Larry. Well, we are now seeing traffic pick up here on I-77. This image was moving, just froze on me. But you can see that fog, really about a quarter-mile visibility out and about majority of Mecklenburg County, so keep that in mind. And then leaving some of the denser fog is a slightly better visibility really in the northeastern side of the 485 loop. But letting you know that at University City Boulevard at North Tryon, that incident we were reporting got a little bit more detail. It's actually a pedestrian accident. So we are looking at the inbound lanes currently blocked, looks like here on North Tryon Street. Keep that in mind. It's a lot of those back roads. It's a directed detour here, but I'll let you know when this clears. But this is definitely the biggest incident that we have and the biggest slowdown so far this morning. Drive safely.
Still to come on WCNC Charlotte, we're catching you up on some of the other national races called while you were sleeping.
WCNC Charlotte is your trusted source. We're verifying the political ads from the presidential to the governor's race, cutting through the noise to separate fact from fiction. Scan the QR code to see what's been verified.
Thanks for downloading the WCNC Plus app. We've got more local news coming up, so keep it right here for the most accurate forecast and exclusive content, all available on your time. WCNC Plus, live, local, and always on.
Weather impacts everything. Stay prepared with WCNC Charlotte's Weather Impact Team.
It's a raging torrent coming down King Street right now.
Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich and the entire Weather Impact Team delivers the wind.
Brief showers overnight.
The impact.
Winds 60 miles an hour.
And what you need to stay safe and weather aware.
The water will continue to rise. There's nowhere for this water to go.
Stay aware of weather that impacts you by downloading the WCNC News app now. WCNC Plus delivers stories that impact you, plus breaking and developing news as it happens, streaming live on your time, plus weather coverage that impacts you 24/7. Stream WCNC Plus now.
Turn on the news that impacts you every evening at 6 on WCNC Charlotte.
Get breaking news and continuing coverage.
Stay weather aware with the Weather Impact Team.
We're your trusted source for verified news and content.
Want it now? Stream now. WCNC Plus gives you breaking and developing news along with weather coverage that impacts you. It's streaming 24/7 on WCNC Plus.
Get more of the news that impacts you on WCNC Charlotte weeknights at 6.
WCNC Weather Impact.
Weather Aware Days. They show you what to expect when the weather changes. We're going to show you the timing, the impacts, and how to stay safe.
Stay weather aware with the WCNC Weather Impact Team and download the WCNC News app.
Guaranteed offer, you can receive the strongest cash
WCNC Charlotte live pictures over the White House this morning. If you're just joining us, the nation waking up to the news that former President Donald Trump now projected to win the presidency. Just over 30 minutes ago, AP News officially calling the race for Trump after he secured Wisconsin's electoral votes, surpassing that magic number of 270.
All right, taking a look at some big national races from overnight. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, projected winner in Louisiana's 4th Congressional District. Johnson coasted his way to re-election, securing his 5th term in Congress. This is Johnson's first win since becoming House Speaker just over a year ago. In Vermont, Senator Bernie Sanders winning re-election as well, continuing his decades-long career in Washington. The 83-year-old now securing another 6 years in the U.S. Senate. He's the second oldest senator right now behind Iowa Republican Chuck Grassley, who is 91 years old.
Now to Massachusetts, where Democrat Elizabeth Warren secured her 3rd term in the U.S. Senate. Warren burst onto the scene during the 2008 financial crisis, playing a key role in the creation of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. She has since gone on to become one of the Democratic Party's most prominent liberal voices. And in Ohio, Republican Bernie Moreno has unseated 3-term incumbent Democrat Sherrod Brown. Moreno is a Colombian immigrant endorsed by Donald Trump. Senator Brown has represented the state since he was first elected as a representative back in 1973. Moreno's victory is a huge boost for Republicans in their drive to regain control of the Senate.
More on all of that coming up in just a few minutes. But first, let's pause for a second. Let's chat about the weather this morning as well.
Pause for the cause. Yeah, weather this morning. I think the weather feature today, the weather of the day is fog. Our 4 cameras indicate the foggy conditions in Monroe, visibility limited there. That uptown camera from our view, looking towards uptown, obscured by the low deck of clouds and fog. Foggy at Kannapolis and on the Speedway off the distance, can't see anything because definitely a foggy morning. Across the region, half-mile visibility at Charlotte, and that's measured at Douglas Airport. Foggy conditions over at Shelby as well. About a mile visibility at Lincoln. Once you get down to South Carolina around areas from Chester to Lancaster, fog there. Over in Monroe, 0.3 of a mile visibility, low beams in order today. At the bus stop, it is a mild morning. With that fog, temperatures in the mid to upper 60s for kids at the bus stop. I think the issue this morning would be the fact you may not be able to see very far, but make sure that the kids are okay, that they have the clothing that is comfortable, as well as some of those that will reflect the light so that people can see them. And then on the way home today, mid to upper 70s. So a very mild morning and a warm afternoon. We scan the skies. Not a lot going on the radar this morning. Got some very light rainfall over towards Buncombe County around the Asheville area, the concentration of rain this morning. And the heavy storms extend all the way from Louisiana in the mid-south around Memphis all the way to the Ohio Valley. And then showers in the Gulf of Mexico. Then you can see across Cuba, radars are picking up their rain from the hurricane down there. As far as rainfall chances over the next several days, some showers tomorrow, dry weather as we head to the weekend. And then we get to the middle part of the month of November. We get to about Thursday and Friday next week, a few more showers on the way to the area. Satellite indicates where the hurricane is at the moment, and we'll move across the western part of Cuba. As a Category 1, maybe Category 2, enters in the Gulf of Mexico, and conditions are not favorable for intensification. In fact, it loses lots of intensity as we get to the end of the weekend. Could make landfall, maybe even as a tropical depression, because water temperatures are very, very about 75 degrees. They used to be 85 to 90. As far as temperatures today in the high country, up around Blowing Rock, about 68, low 70s in the Boone area, mid 70s, Lenore, Taylorsville, Morganton, and Hickory for the Charlotte metro area. Very mild this afternoon, mid, even upper 70s in a couple of spots. And you go east and southeast of here. Wouldn't be surprised if the low 80s over towards Chesterfield, South Carolina, and around Rockingham in North Carolina. Here's your Guy Roofing 7-day forecast. 76 today, mid-70s with a few showers tomorrow. Friday looking great. A cool down for the weekend. In fact, by Sunday, we're in the upper 60s. A big rebound Monday and Tuesday of next week, back into the mid-70s. That's the forecast. Let's get a check right now. They commute this morning. Here's Chris.
Just reconfirming that we do have that inbound lanes that are closed right here at University City Boulevard at North Tryon Street. So it looks like it is physically University South Tryon, or North Tryon. There we go, back on track. That is currently blocked heading heading inbound because of this pedestrian incident. So it's an active investigation for the time being. Larry mentioned the fog. The fog continues to expand, and that is going to be the case. We even have a goose egg right here around Lancaster, and then down to a quarter mile, that's where things get extra dangerous. We're seeing that through a majority of Union County, pretty much the entirety of Cleveland County, and then sparingly to the south and southwestern part of Mecklenburg County. Other incidents to mention, where you swing over to Rowan County, just southwest of Salisbury, we have the right lane that's blocked to this crash right here on I-85 northbound. That is right after Peach Orchard Road. Keep that in mind. Those are the big incidents that you need to know about as you're heading out on your morning commute. Drive safe.
Chris, thanks. Up next right here on WCNC Charlotte. A lot of folks waking up this morning with results both nationally and locally. We're checking in with a political expert to break down some of the biggest races here in North Carolina and what those results mean for your family.
WCNC Charlotte is your trusted source. We're verifying the political ads from the presidential to the governor's race, cutting through the noise to separate fact from fiction. Scan the QR code to see what's been verified.
Thanks for downloading the WCNC Plus app. We've got more local news coming up, so keep it right here for the most accurate forecast and exclusive content, all available on your time. WCNC Plus, live, local, and always on.
Weather impacts everything. Stay prepared with WCNC Charlotte's Weather Impact Team.
It's a raging torrent coming down King Street right now.
Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich and the entire Weather Impact Team delivers the wind.
Brief showers overnight.
The impact.
Winds 60 miles an hour.
And what you need to stay safe and weather aware.
The water will continue to rise. There's nowhere for this water to go.
Stay aware of weather that impacts you by downloading the WCNC News app now. WCNC Plus delivers stories that impact you, plus breaking and developing news as it happens, streaming live on your time, plus weather coverage that impacts you 24/7. Stream WCNC Plus now.
Turn on the news that impacts you every evening at 6 on WCNC Charlotte.
Get breaking news and continuing coverage.
Stay weather aware with the Weather Impact Team.
We're your trusted source for verified news and content.
Want it now? Stream now. WCNC Plus gives you breaking and developing news along with weather coverage that impacts you. It's streaming 24/7 on WCNC Plus.
Get more of the news that impacts you on WCNC Charlotte weeknights at 6.
WCNC Weather Impact.
Weather Aware Days. They show you what to expect when the weather changes. We're going to show you the timing, the impacts, and how to stay safe.
Stay weather aware with the WCNC Weather Impact Team and download the WCNC News app.
We make sure accidents.
Welcome back. 622, a lot to digest this morning, both locally and nationally.
Yeah, if you're just not waking up, we know in the last hour, President Trump declared the winner in the race overnight. And joining us right now to talk a little more about the races is Eric Heberlig, a professor of political science at UNC Charlotte. Professor, thanks for waking up early with us. We do appreciate it.
Good morning.
All right, let's start with, I don't want to ask you any leading question because I want to get a genuine response. What's your overall reaction? What were you most surprised about as some of those results came in overnight?
Donald Trump really ran the map. The competitive states all broke for Trump, largely not just in the presidential race, but in the Senate races as well. The places where Kamala Harris expected to do well, such as the suburbs and with women, didn't really come through, and Trump continued to run up big margins in rural areas.
Now, North Carolina voted for a Republican president, but Democratic governor in Josh Stein. This is something we've seen historically with this state. Why do you think that is?
Democrats are able to consistently run about 2 to 3 points better in competitive statewide races than presidential candidates. There are a number of North Carolina voters who are comfortable with the more moderate North Carolina Democrats who think the presidential candidates are typically too liberal. And we saw that last night that in a number of the statewide races, Democrats were able to win by narrow margins, where Trump was able to win pretty easily.
And even though Josh Stein secured that win, and it looks like Jeff Jackson is going to be our next attorney general, they both are going to be working with at least a majority GOP General Assembly, if not a supermajority. Some races still close to call this morning. What does that mean for the idea of any sort of productive progress a new governor can make?
Yeah, it makes it difficult if Republicans can pass whatever they want in the legislature and override the governor's veto. They have little incentive to negotiate with the governor ahead of time. And that gives Governor Stein limited ability to negotiate in ways that move policy closer to Democrats' policy priorities.
Back to the national race. I want to ask you a bit of an insider baseball question, but I think one that a lot of people have. We've talked about on this newscast for weeks now, and you've seen it in other places, how tight this presidential race was, that it was neck and neck, 49-49 or 48 and 48%. And when it came down to it, it just wasn't that close. It doesn't appear. What does this mean for polling going forward when it comes to politics in the United States? Because it seems like, once again, these polling companies were quite a bit off.
Well, we've seen them be off in races that involve Donald Trump. They're not off so much in other type of races, which means that he's able to pull out or pull non-traditional voters to the polls to vote, people who aren't responding to public opinion polls, people who don't vote in other elections. So they're not picked up in the predictive model of who's going to turn out to vote. And we've seen that very consistently. So the real challenge for pollsters is getting people to respond to public opinion polls when people have the technology to screen out calls that they don't want to take.
Yeah, it's going to change the whole industry, I think. All right, Professor, sit tight. We've got more questions and more clarity that we need from you. We'll talk to you again coming up in just about 20 minutes.
And a reminder that we will have continuing coverage streaming live all day long on our app, WCNC Plus. You can also stay up to date on races while using our mobile app as well. Larry?
It is a very foggy morning. Put the low beams on, less light reflection that way, and much safer to do it. Make sure your lights are on, of course. Got your forecast coming up right here in just a few minutes on WCNC Charlotte.
And still ahead in our next half hour, after a few technical hiccups late last night, results are in across Mecklenburg County. We'll show you how those races finished overnight. If you're in a
WCNC Charlotte is your trusted source. We're verifying the political ads from the presidential to the governor's race, cutting through the noise to separate fact from fiction. Scan the QR code to see what's been verified.
Thanks for downloading the WCNC Plus app. We've got more local news coming up, so keep it right here for the most accurate forecast and exclusive content, all available on your time. WCNC Plus, live, local, and always on.
Weather impacts everything. Stay prepared with WCNC Charlotte's Weather Impact Team.
It's a raging torrent coming down King Street right now.
Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich and the entire Weather Impact Team delivers the wind.
Brief showers overnight.
The impact.
Winds 60 miles an hour.
And what you need to stay safe and weather aware.
The water will continue to rise. There's nowhere for this water to go.
Stay aware of weather that impacts you by downloading the WCNC News app now. WCNC Plus delivers stories that impact you, plus breaking and developing news as it happens, streaming live on your time, plus weather coverage that impacts you 24/7. Stream WCNC Plus now.
Turn on the news that impacts you every evening at 6 on WCNC Charlotte.
Get breaking news and continuing coverage.
Stay weather aware with the Weather Impact Team.
We're your trusted source for verified news and content.
Want it now? Stream now. WCNC Plus gives you breaking and developing news along with weather coverage that impacts you. It's streaming 24/7 on WCNC Plus.
Get more of the news that impacts you on WCNC Charlotte weeknights at 6.
WCNC. WCNC Charlotte starts with breaking news.
It is a busy morning here on WCNC Charlotte. Good morning. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ben Thompson.
And I'm Sarah French. We begin with breaking news this morning. This is a live look at the White House right now, where former President Trump will return to the White House as the 47th president of the United States. The Associated Press calling the race in just the last hour after Wisconsin officially went red, that critical swing state giving him the boost he needed to push past 270.
You are now looking at the Electoral College map this morning, where things stand as of right now. President Trump with a convincing victory in this year's presidential race. He officially secured the key battleground states of North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and now Wisconsin, as you can see there on the lower right, now with that 277 electoral votes. All he needed was 270 at this point. The remaining ones of Arizona, as well as Michigan, Nevada, also looking like they will lean in his favor. Right now, President Trump will go on to be just the second president to win non-consecutive terms in office. This morning, the country waking up to a new president and a new party expected to be in control of both the executive and legislative branches.
Late last night, the Republican Party winning control of the Senate and appears to be on the way to the House as well. This would set up a very favorable beginning to Trump's second stint in office. Just about 2 hours ago, he wrapped up his first address to the nation as the projected winner.
All right, now back to our coverage of some of the local races and a big night in Mecklenburg County.
WCNC Charlotte's Destiny Richards live for us this morning with a look at how those races finished. Destiny?
That's right. We have the Mecklenburg County Board of Commissioners races where 4 Democratic incumbents have been reelected according to unofficial results. And then the North Carolina State House District 105 race, which represents a large part of Mecklenburg County. Tricia Cotham will stay on the state General Assembly. Let's start with those results. With all precincts reporting, Republican Tricia Cotham wins with just over 50% of the vote against Democrat Nicole Sidman, who had 49.74%. That's just a 275 vote difference. And then moving on to the Mecklenburg County Board of Commissioners. For the at-large position, Democrat incumbents Arthur Griffin Jr. and Leigh Altman will stay on the board, and a new member, Yvette Townsend Ingram, will join. They all ran unopposed. In the race for District 1 County Commissioner representing North Mecklenburg County, 95% of precincts are reporting Democrat Elaine Powell keeping her position with 59% of the votes over Republican Aaron R. Marin. For District 2 representing West Mecklenburg County, 100% of precincts are reporting incumbent Democrat Vilma D. Leak winning with 74% over Angela White Edwards. For District 5, which covers parts of Central and South Charlotte, Democrat Laura Meyer stays on the board with just over 55% of the vote. And for District 6, County Commissioner covering South and East Mecklenburg County, Democrat Susan Rodriguez McDowell keeps her position with nearly 53% of votes. Definitely important local races affecting decisions in Mecklenburg County. And there's lots of other important local races that we have for you. Just go to the WCNC News app to check them all out. I'll send it back to you guys.
Destiny, thanks for that. All right, let's go over some of the congressional races. Now, no big surprise here. These districts are all drawn to be rather predictable, and they were just that. So let's run through them, several of them right now. Virginia Fox, up in the mountains, covers Jefferson, Lenoir, winning decidedly with almost 60% of the vote there. Next up, District 6. This is Addison McDowell. He's a newcomer, but got the endorsement of President Trump early on. This district covers Salisbury, up Lexington, and High Point as well, with 69% of the vote. District 8, Mark Harris, a well-known entity here in North Carolina politics. This covers the district southeast of Charlotte down through Monroe and Lumberton as well, with 60%. You'll notice a trend. A lot of these are not close at all. District 10 here, Pat Harrigan. This is Lincoln, Newton, Statesville, up to Yadkinville and Winston-Salem, with 58% of the vote there. District 11, Chuck Edwards. You might have seen a lot of him in the last month or two because he represents Western North Carolina and has been quite vocal during the cleanup of Hurricane Helene. He was elected back 2 years ago, replacing Madison Cawthorn, with 57% of the vote there. District 12 here in Charlotte, Alma Adams with 74% of the vote. And finally, District 14, this is west of Charlotte, Gastonia, Morganton, Rutherfordton, Tim Moore, with 58% of the vote. He will be new to Congress, but if his name is familiar, it should be. He is currently the Speaker of the North Carolina House. As I mentioned, all of these were rather predictable because these are drawn to be predictable. Republicans are in power right now in Raleigh, so they draw these lines to favor them. Democrats, when they're in power, they did the exact same thing. This is what you call gerrymandering. It leads to very predictable outcomes in some of these congressional races. Sarah.
All right, Ben, thank you. Well, voters in the city of Charlotte also deciding on 3 major bond proposals. A reminder that those projects are for affordable housing, neighborhood improvements, and transportation improvements. Here's a look at what voters decided. It looks like all 3 bonds passed with an easy majority. That means the city will get an extra $400 million in funding for the projects. It also means that homeowners will owe more in property taxes to help pay for it. For homeowners with a $400,000 home, that means you will pay an extra $10 a year in property taxes. It was a busy election day in South Carolina as well. WCNC Charlotte's Jesse Pierre takes a closer look at turnout in the Palmetto State this morning.
Here in South Carolina, tens of thousands of people made their voices count this election, with more than 1.5 million ballots cast during early voting. Now, here in York County, officials tell me about 65% of registered voters participated in this election. That is nearly 145,000 people. Now, those numbers are unofficial until the election is certified. In York County, officials tell me they had 85 polling sites across the county, staffed with almost 800 people, including poll managers and clerk.
So we will be doing a great deal of research about any provisional ballots that came through and verifying people's addresses and if they did register at the DMV and if they met the cutoff. Folks who don't bring an ID have an opportunity to vote a provisional ballot. They need to bring their ID to us.
Jesse Pierre, WCNC Charlotte.
Back here, Mecklenburg County election results were a little slow to come in last night as officials struggled to get the results published online. They say early voting numbers were behind due to technical issues, but this morning we know just over 65% of the county's vote went towards Vice President Harris, while about 33% voted for Mr. Trump.
We're going to pivot here for a moment to get you ready for the day on your Wednesday.
Larry's standing by with a look at your WCNC weather impact forecast. Larry?
Take a look at this right here. You can't see very much. It is a very, very foggy morning. Those 4 cameras indicating just how foggy it is. Visibility limited in every location there. I wouldn't be surprised if the National Weather Service doesn't issue a dense fog advisory because it is very foggy. Check this out. Every spot, with the exception of a couple, has foggy conditions, and those will be over towards Concord and Albemarle. Everybody else said less than quarter-mile visibility at Lancaster, South Carolina, at the airport here in Charlotte. Half-mile visibility, about the same at Gastonia. So you got travel plans, Interstate 85. You're heading westbound, heading down Highway 74. Although you're heading down to South Carolina, down to Interstate 77. You're going to encounter fog just about anywhere you go. Mountains are okay up around Hickory, and you get towards Statesville there in Iredell County, less than 2-mile visibility. So patchy, even dense fog. Check out these temperatures out there. At least it's comfortable temperature-wise. Most of the area in the low to mid-60s here on this Wednesday morning. Winds light there anywhere from about 3 to 5 miles per hour. Noontime out for lunch in the mid-70s. We'll hit about 76 degrees around 2 o'clock this afternoon. I think east and southeast of Charlotte, there may be some neighborhoods that actually get close to 80 degrees today, and the rain chance increases between about 8 and 10 o'clock this evening. That's the forecast. Let's get a check right now on your Wednesday morning commute. It's foggy out there. Is that affecting the commute at all, Chris?
Yeah, we're definitely seeing a few more incidents than we otherwise did earlier, but oftentimes it's odd. I feel like when it's foggy, people are driving the safest, but then we do have a couple of bad incidents like, hey, if you can't really see in front of you, you got to take extra precaution. There was a pedestrian incident where now all lanes are closed prior to North Tryon. This is University City Boulevard, so it leads up to North Tryon that backs up to Shopping Center Drive. So right through here, we have that stretch. Was reported that all the inbound lanes were closed, but now we're seeing a report that all the lanes are closed through there. You can actually take the same roads to get around that. It'd be North Tryon over to Shopping Center Drive to get you back on the beaten path. Right lane is also blocked right here up in Rowan County, southwest of Salisbury. That's I-85 northbound before you get to Peach Orchard Road. And then hopping well down to the south to the other side of the 485 loop, we have this right here at Steel Creek Road. There's an incident in the right turn lane to 485 outer ramp. Drive safely.
Chris, thanks. Time now, 6:40. Up next right here on WCNC Charlotte, we speak to a political expert live here on air to help us break down some of the biggest surprises from the races overnight.
And
WCNC Charlotte is your trusted source. We're verifying the political ads from the presidential to the governor's race, cutting through the noise to separate fact from fiction. Scan the QR code to see what's been verified.
Thanks for downloading the WCNC Plus app. We've got more local news coming up, so keep it right here for the most accurate forecast and exclusive content, all available on your time. WCNC Plus, live, local, and always on.
Weather impacts everything. Stay prepared with WCNC Charlotte's Weather Impact Team.
It's a raging torrent coming down King Street right now.
Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich and the entire Weather Impact Team delivers the wind.
Brief showers overnight.
The impact.
Winds 60 miles an hour.
And what you need to stay safe and weather aware.
The water will continue to rise. There's nowhere for this water to go.
Stay aware of weather that impacts you by downloading the WCNC News app now. WCNC Plus delivers stories that impact you, plus breaking and developing news as it happens, streaming live on your time, plus weather coverage that impacts you 24/7. Stream WCNC Plus now.
Turn on the news that impacts you every evening at 6 on WCNC Charlotte.
Get breaking news and continuing coverage.
Stay weather aware with the Weather Impact Team.
We're your trusted source for verified news and content.
Want it now? Stream now. WCNC Plus gives you breaking and developing news along with weather coverage that impacts you. It's streaming 24/7 on WCNC Plus.
Get more of the news that impacts you on WCNC Charlotte weeknights at 6.
WCNC Weather Impact.
Weather Aware Days. They show you what to expect when the weather changes. We're going to show you the timing, the impacts, and how to stay safe.
Stay weather aware with the WCNC Weather Impact Team and download the WCNC News app.
WCNC Charlotte live pictures over the White House this morning. If you're just joining us, the nation waking up to the news that former President Donald Trump, now projected to win the presidency. Just over 30 minutes ago, AP News officially calling the race for Trump after he secured Wisconsin's electoral votes, surpassing that magic number of 270. Well, it was somewhat of a shocking night for Democrats after a tight race ended up becoming more of a landslide.
Joining us now to talk a little more about this is Eric Heberlig, professor of political science over at UNC Charlotte. Eric, thanks again for joining us. Let's talk about this presidential race. A lot of people waking up right now might be surprised by some of the results because the polling was so close. It just didn't shake out that way. What do you think changed to favor Mr. Trump?
If you look at late deciders in the exit polls, in the last two elections, late deciders have favored Donald Trump, and they did so this week as well. So the turnout that Kamala Harris was betting on from Nikki Haley voters, highly educated suburban Republicans, they decided to stick with Republicans, and that didn't give her the boost she needed to offset the losses of working class and minority voters who were concerned about inflation.
North Carolina, important battleground state, of course, went in favor of Trump. Was that call closer than expected?
It was expected to be close. The end result was close, but a larger margin for Trump than we saw in 2020. I think that fits with North Carolina's voting pattern over the last generation, which is slight majorities for Republicans in federal races and Democrats competing well in state level races, such as the governor's race.
And give us some insight. What do we think that a second Trump term is going to look like, being that he could very well end up having a Senate and House that aligns with his political beliefs? He's already named 3 Supreme Court justices in the past, could face several more naming in the next few years. What does the second term look like?
I think the key is whether Democrats are able to pick up enough seats in the House to have a majority in the House. That would mean it would be very difficult for any Trump legislation to get through both chambers of Congress. If the Republicans do hold the majority in the House, they'll have majority House, Senate, and the presidency. And Republican leaders in Washington have largely turned over during the Trump era. You're going to have a much more pro-Trump set of Republicans in Congress. He's going to have substantial flexibility to do what he wants.
And finally, looking forward to 4 years from now, when we're electing a next president, how has Mr. Trump reshaped our political dynamics? When you take a look at it, he made inroads with groups this year that he did not make in 2020 or 2016. What does that mean going forward for our political parties as we know them?
Yeah, the Democrats used to be the working class party, and they've clearly shifted to the Republican Party. And the gains that Democrats have made in the suburbs and among highly educated voters have occurred, but not as substantially as Republicans have gained in rural areas and among less educated voters. And that gives Republicans quite a bit of an edge, as we've seen in many of these northern tier states that traditionally were very Democratic.
All right, Professor, thanks so much for joining us this morning. We do appreciate it.
All right, let's send it over to Larry Sprinkle now, switching gears with a look at that forecast. Larry?
Good morning. Yes, it is a very foggy morning. It's fog out there. Use low beams, slow down, watch for kids. Lots of those bus stops, you can barely see anyone because it is really dangerously foggy out there this morning across the entire area. Check this out. These are our cameras. We use the Monroe camera. You can normally see the old courthouse in the background there. Uptown, nothing invisible there. Kannapolis, just only a few minutes ago, you could see a lot of the background of the Speedway. It is completely covered in fog. So be weather aware about that. Visibility just about anywhere you go is limited. Couple spots without any fog, Boone and over towards Albemarle. Everybody else, we're talking about foggy conditions, half-mile visibility, and that's at Charlotte Douglas International Airport. Around Lancaster, South Carolina, less than a quarter of a mile, foggy conditions from Lincoln to Shelby over towards Gastonia, Rock Hill, Chester, and Cheraw, as well as Wadesboro. So we got the fog out there this morning. Into the afternoon we go with temperatures today unseasonably warm. We're normally about 66 degrees. We're going to be in the mid 70s. Rain chances to increase as we head towards later this evening. Checking the radar right now, just a few spotty light rain showers west of here. No storms out there. The storms today are tracking all the way from Louisiana across into Arkansas and Mississippi up towards the Memphis, Tennessee area, all the way to the Ohio Valley. Some showers and storms there. We're talking about a hurricane there as you get out into the Caribbean, ready to enter in the Gulf of Mexico. The radars actually pick up some of the rain from that. You can see the circulation right there, well-defined eye, will move across western Cuba, becomes Category 1 hurricane, is a Category 1 hurricane, then moves into the Gulf of Mexico. Unlike about 2 months ago when it was just dangerous in the Gulf of Mexico, things have calmed down. The air is much drier, less wind shear, and the water temperatures are nowhere near where they were. We're talking about a lot of the Gulf of Mexico in the mid-70s, mid to upper 70s to low 80s. They were the upper 80s to low 90s back when we saw the hurricanes form there. As we check your hourly forecast, we're talking about mid, maybe even upper 70s in a couple of spots east and southeast. Light winds today, but mainly cloudy skies, but a very mild afternoon. Atlantic hurricane, by the way, I did want to mention that we're down to Raphael. And next on the list, Sarah, Tony, Valerie, and William. So we're getting close to the end of the list. Hopefully it's not extended. As we check your Guy Roofing 7-day forecast. Mid-70s today, more showers if possible tomorrow. Friday, not a bad day at all. Some sunshine, mid-70s. A cooler weekend ahead. We'll near 70 on Saturday. Sunday, back to the more typical temperatures in the mid to upper 60s. And then a big rebound in the temperatures. If you have Veterans Day off, it's going to be in the mid-70s. More of the same Tuesday. of next week. That's forecast. Let's get a check right now on the Wednesday morning commute. We got some issues out there this morning. Here's Chris.
Hey, thanks a lot, Larry. So what's going on around town? The newest incident to pop up on the map. You can actually visibly see it on one of our NCDOT cameras. It's only a partial blockage, and that's the express lane on I-77 southbound. So cars are still getting by. Now they're only using one lane. They're just diverging into one. That's right around exit 33 to US 21. So here in the northern part of Huntersville is where we're seeing this. Then we're also looking at the closure still here on University City Boulevard. This is from North Tryon to Shopping Center Drive. This is a pedestrian accident, so it's under an active investigation. There was an initial report that was just the inbound lanes that are blocked, but it looks like both sides are blocked for the time being. I think the outbound side will be opening back up here soon. And then 485, the outer ramp, it's actually the end of the ramp. There's an incident in the right turn lane onto 485 coming from Steel Creek Road. Those are the big three that you need to know about on top of a very foggy morning commute.
Chris, thank you. Still ahead on WCNC Charlotte, we've got results for some of North Carolina's biggest races, including the landslide win from Attorney General and future Governor Josh Stein.
WCNC Charlotte is your trusted source. We're verifying the political ads from the presidential to the governor's race, cutting through the noise to separate fact from fiction. Scan the QR code to see what's been verified.
Thanks for downloading the WCNC Plus app. We've got more local news coming up, so keep it right here for the most accurate forecast and exclusive content, all available on your time. WCNC Plus, live, local, and always on.
Weather impacts everything. Stay prepared with WCNC Charlotte's Weather Impact Team.
It's a raging torrent coming down King Street right now.
Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich and the entire Weather Impact Team delivers the wind.
Brief showers overnight.
The impact.
Winds 60 miles an hour.
And what you need to stay safe and weather aware.
The water will continue to rise. There's nowhere for this water to go.
Stay aware of weather that impacts you by downloading the WCNC News app now. WCNC Plus delivers stories that impact you, plus breaking and developing news as it happens, streaming live on your time, plus weather coverage that impacts you 24/7. Stream WCNC Plus now.
Turn on the news that impacts you every evening at 6 on WCNC Charlotte.
Get breaking news and continuing coverage.
Stay weather aware with the Weather Impact Team.
We're your trusted source for verified news and content.
Want it now? Stream now. WCNC Plus gives you breaking and developing news along with weather coverage that impacts you. It's streaming 24/7 on WCNC Plus.
Get more of the news that impacts you on WCNC Charlotte weeknights at 6.
WCNC Weather Impact.
Weather Aware Days. They show you what to expect when the weather changes. We're going to show you the timing, the impacts, and how to stay safe.
Stay weather aware with the WCNC Weather Impact Team and download the WCNC News app.
Along in and out.
WCNC Charlotte.
Turning now to your top stories of the morning. A new era is set to begin in the United States as we have learned in the past hour that former President Donald Trump will win the White House The Associated Press calling the race just an hour ago after an overwhelming turnout by Republican voters in key swing states like North Carolina and Pennsylvania. But it was Wisconsin that pushed Trump to victory and passed that magical 270 electoral votes. Meantime, we expect to hear from Vice President Harris sometime later today.
Good Wednesday morning. The last night, Josh Stein thanked his supporters as he becomes the state's first Jewish-born governor. He says that it's not about making history that way. He wants to help the people of the state. He also says one of the first things he wants to do as the new governor will be to continue to make sure that the folks in Western Carolina get the help they need. He also touted education and other areas that he's talked about on the campaign trail as he says he's ready to get into office and help lead the state.
This morning, we can also tell you Democrat Jeff Jackson will succeed Josh Stein as the North Carolina Attorney General. Jackson narrowly defeating Republican Dan Bishop by just a couple 100,000 votes. This race, the most expensive Attorney General's race in North Carolina history. Both candidates spent an estimated $30 million plus.
And in Charlotte, 3 major bond proposals getting the green light from voters overnight. Those proposed projects cover everything from affordable housing, neighborhood improvements, and transportation upgrades. To help pay for it, homeowners will owe more than property taxes. For homeowners with a $400,000 home, that means you'll pay an extra $10 a year in property taxes.
A reminder that we will have continuing coverage streaming live all day long on WCNC Plus, including more results from across the U.S. and hearing from Vice President Kamala Harris after a tough loss. She's expected to speak sometime today. You can also stay up to date on races using the WCNC Charlotte mobile app.
What you're looking at right now is the inbound lanes on University City Boulevard. You see those flashing lights. This is the fatal crash investigation where a pedestrian was found dead on arrival. And then this is going to be a big blockage here. It looks like outbound lanes are open, inbound currently closed.
It is a foggy morning. Use those low beams and watch for the kids out there. Temperatures today in the 70s all the way to the weekend.
All right, Larry, thank you. We'll see you back here at 11:30. Don't forget, we are always streaming on WCNC Plus.
And our live coverage